Okay, the corms have been soaking now for 3 days, and so we've kept them in our master bathroom because we have to keep the door closed because Loki loves going after the turmeric. And so we wanted to make sure that he would stay out of there because he would try drinking that water. I don't know if it would be bad for him, but we don't want to chance it. And speak of the devil right there. You open the door and a cat appears. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to create some soil so we can do what we call the pre-planting of the corms. And so what this is here, this is a brick of cocoa coir, which this is a ground up version of the husk of the coconut. So the coconut has the actual coconut itself and then has the big shell around it. So when the coconut drops from the top of the palm tree, it doesn't shatter. So somebody decided that they would go in here and they would grind this up and they would compress it into a brick form, and then you can make a soil out of it. And normally you would use peat moss for this, but peat moss is acidic by nature. This cocoa coir is pH neutral.
And it's renewable.
And it's renewable because, you know, you got to do something with the coconut husk. And so what they do is you add a gallon of water into the brick here, and then so while the water's going, what it's going to do is it's going to expand eventually, probably 5 or 6 times, and it'll take about 15 minutes to do that. So there's the gallon of water. And so this is what it ends up being. This one we did earlier today. And so this is just the straight cocoa coir. There's nothing else in this. There's no vermiculite, no perlite, no nothing. And so speaking of the perlite and vermiculite, that's Andrea's going to add perlite, vermiculite, and worm castings. So there's the worm castings that she uses into this to create a soil base. And let me come over here. These are the turmeric that Andrea has been starting in here. Once they get about this size, then she plants them in fabric pots outside. But to start them, we've been doing them inside. Andrea's been doing that most of the summer. But the soil here is this cocoa coir with the perlite, vermiculite, and the worm castings. And so what Andrea's going to do now is that she's just going to take that soil and she's going to dump it into our little tote thing here. And then she'll just mix all the stuff in there to its proper ratios. And then while all that's going on, this one here is going to continue to expand. And typically what you do with this, let me rotate this, there we go, is you flip it over and then you can see it's starting to crumble up like this. And so for it to fully dissolve and to get into a soil format takes about 15 minutes. So it's only been doing this for like a minute or two, and you can see it's already been bunching up like that. The directions say use 3 quarts of water, but we found 4 quarts works better for us. So we will see how that's going to work. All right, So we'll let that work out. And then once that's done, we have trays that look similar to those that will actually stick the corms in. So when we get to that point, I will come back and then show you the next step. And hit the pause button. Okay, getting my hands full of the goopy mess down here. And then I can't touch my phone, so Andre had to pause that for me. So I thought that was kind of funny. So there's the, which one is that, Andre?
A vermiculite.
All right, that's the vermiculite. She hadn't gotten to the perlite yet, but the perlite's the white stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So she's getting that now. I know it's not the same, but to me the perlite always looks like it's styrofoam that's all been crumpled up. So there's the perlite and vermiculite, and then the worm castings. Did you put that in yet?
Yeah, I put some in, but I didn't put more in.
Okay.
Because we have to get more perlite, so I just put more in.
Yeah, so there's the worm castings. Andre wanted to use the worm castings instead of like cow manure compost or something because it's just finer and smaller. So there we go. And so there's all of the soil. And so she'll just mix that up, and then it will be ready for the corms itself. Okay, Andre, we just added the second brick. So there's the container right there. And then we're out of the perlite and the worm castings, but we have plenty of vermiculite, so we went ahead and just added some more vermiculite into the soil.
We'll have to get the other two tomorrow.
So as you can see, there's the size of the tote itself, and it's about 2/3 full of soil. And with the clumping ability, it's pretty moist. And so, like I said, you can put 3 quarts in per brick, but we normally put 4 just to make sure it's nice and moist. Of course, we also live in a very humid environment too, so that's probably another reason. So, all right, next up is we're going to. Oh, if you hear that, I had to turn the fan on because when I put the vermiculite in, it just put dust everywhere. Okay, here's the trays that we have. The trays we got from Bootstrap Farmer, and it has these little mesh screen things. So if you want, so you can be able to put water down here, and you can be able to lift this up individually. So if it gets too waterlogged or something inside the tray, then you have ability to get it out. And then on top of that, you have these climate controlled lids, is what I call them. Is that you have these little valve things that's on the top of like a Weber grill, charcoal grill type thing. So you can control the humidity. So if you need something that has needs a very high humidity, like earlier in the year when we were doing the sweet potato starts, they said you do that in a very high humid environment. And so we didn't have this at the time, so we had to do a redneck system. But now we have this, so we can, actually be semi-professional about it. But what we're going to do tomorrow is we'll put the dirt in, and then we'll take a layer of the corms, put the corms in here, and then we'll put the lid on it, and then we will leave those in here, and that's supposed to help supercharge the beginning of the corm growth, because these things if left on their own devices in the ground, can take months before they even start. And so the idea is that if we can control that part of it to where they start and basically look like an onion start at that point, then we can take them out and then we can plant them out in the garden. But then until then, instead of those taking up, hundreds and hundreds of square feet of garden space while they're sitting in the ground not doing anything, you can compress that into a few of these. And then if it takes 2 or 3 months or 4 months or something for those to start, then they're in here, not taking up a whole bunch of real estate out in the garden. Then once they start sprouting, then we can take them and then we'll move them and then we'll put them out in the garden. And pretty much they would be considered like onion starts at that point, where they'll have a little bit of root and they'll have a little bit of top on them. And then we just pop them in the ground. And what we're hoping is that this will condense the corm growing cycle, because you can take a full-grown elephant garlic and get it from these corms, but it takes 2 full years to do it. And so we're hoping by doing it this way, we might be able to compress that down into either we can get the corms to actually bulb out in 1 year, or if not, they'll be really big onions, and then they'll be massive bulbs the second year. And so speaking of really big onions, let me show you this real quick. Okay, my aunt mailed us 25 pounds, 26 pounds, something like that, of her elephant garlic. And I wanted to show you is that this one isn't with the rest of them because it had a bad spot in it and Andre just cut it out. And so she's having it up here. But if you see my hand here, this is how big the onion is. So this garlic did not even bulb out even at this size. And that's not the only one. There's multiple onions that are about that size. So, this one's smaller, but it's still a big onion. And so the onions she gave us at the beginning of the year, I think 17 onions out of the garlics that we started. And those obviously ended up being the biggest bulbs that we had this year because they had the biggest head start. And then this is for my aunt here. These were the ones that Andre said that 3 of them were rotten. And so that's what they were. These were the ones that were rotten here. And we didn't know that until we actually busted the bulbs up earlier today. But the rest of her garlic is over here. So here's all of her garlic, my aunt's garlic that we broke apart and Andrea split in her little organizational system. And so we have some corms that were still attached. Luckily, we didn't have that many because we already have like 1,200 corms. And then Andre's got our little cheat sheet right here. So basically, we ended up, so we had 518 cloves total from my aunt. Now, 31 of those were the corms, but that did not include the 3 rotted ones. But of here, there's the small, medium, and large. And where's there you go, the onions are up there. So we had 17 onions that my aunt gave us at the beginning of the year. We have 70.
This is the different size onions, and then the cloves, the corms.
Oh, so that's the size of the onions. Oh, okay. So the big one that I showed you, that would obviously be considered a large.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, actually, it was in the damaged.
And so anyway, that's all of that. So between my aunt's onions and the onions that we made this year, I think we're going to have about 150, if not a little more than that, of just onions.
I can find out.
And so now the only other thing I have to do, which I'll do tomorrow, is I have to Tetris all of this into the refrigerator where the rest of the garlic is. So here's the refrigerator right now. The bin on the left side is empty because that's where the corms were. This bottom right one right here, that has onions in it. Now when I mean onions, those are actual onions. And then we have some up here. Oh, Andre wouldn't be sure. The cipollones are on top, and then we have the red Creole on the bottom. And then we have the remainder of the other onions there. So, and that's it for our onions for this year. We started out with over 1,000 and, hold on. Okay. Now it's just light in there was no light on in the laundry room. So as soon as I shut that door, it got really dark. And so Andrea said we had 85 onion garlics of ours. So yeah, we'll have about 150 onions total. And the reason I like the onions will produce the biggest bulbs. And so if we have 150 ginormo bulbs, I can handle that. And so, but we ended up with over 1,000 onions, and we ended up giving most of those away because the yellow onions are starting to go bad in the refrigerator. But we also harvested those, I would say, in the middle of June.
Yeah.
So that's been 3 months ago. So the fact we were able to keep short day yellow onions for 3 months.
Sweet onions. For 3 months.
Yeah, for 3 months, I'll call that good. The red onions last longer. That's why we've been trying to eat the other ones first. But anyway, this is an onion video. This is a garlic video.
We still haven't harvested any of the corms that we planted last.
Yeah, and we think there's corms out there right now, but we haven't been out in the garden lately to check them out. And those are the last two of our spaghetti squash. Those will get cut up and given to the sisters. So they'll be excited about that. So anyway, tomorrow we will actually put the corms in, and then the corms will be ready for their pre-planting. And then now we just have to see how long it's going to be for them to actually start sprouting. Okay, it's the next day now, and so we're actually doing the pre-planting of the corms. We have 2/3 of the corms already in their growing areas. There's the other third. So I'll walk you through this real quick. Here, the one on the left here, this one is blank. So that's just the seed tray with nothing in it. And then this one here, this one has the dirt in it of what we mixed up yesterday, which was the cocoa core with the vermiculite, the perlite, and worm castings. And so then this one actually has the layer of corms on it. And then the final one over here, that one has the dirt on top of the corms. And it's going to finalize it by putting the lid on. Okay, here's the lid on it. Before we put the lid on, Andrea just took a spray bottle and just kind of misted the top. And so we are keeping the openings open on top here just in case any excess humidity builds up.
And so it doesn't get too hot.
and so it doesn't get too hot. And so this is what the final product is going to look like. And so we're going to have 3 of these total because these 2 will also have corms in them. And the idea for this is to let them actually start developing roots and the shoots. And once they start coming up, then we will take them out of here and then we will transplant them into the ground and be with the other garlic. If you leave it to nature, this could take months. This still might take months in order to do. But the good thing with this, even if this does take months, we're compressing almost 1,200 corms into an area that's this size instead of taking hundreds and hundreds of square feet of garden space. And so, you know, maybe 50% of these germinate, maybe 50% of them don't. And so this is what the plan is. The good thing is every time you do elephant garlic, you get corms with it, because we ended up with about 1,800 cloves and about 11 to 1,200 corms.
Perfect for experiment.
So this is good for experimentation, because even if we lose this entire crop of corms, more corms will come up next year. We saw this done a different way on a video, which got us the idea to do all of this. Because what that person did is he just took the corms and just chucked them in dirt and just had them in an enclosed environment like this. And then he let the roots start develop, and he let the...
just the roots, and then he planted them.
Yeah, then he planted them into the ground. So we thought that that would be a good idea. Now, normally with garlic, you want to make sure that the root side is down and the pointy side is up, because that's the part that the shoot's going to come off of. But for this purpose, since this isn't going to be permanent, this is only temporary, it doesn't really matter the placement.
Well, they're very shallow.
And like Andre said, they're also very shallow too, because as you look at these corms, they're just chucked in here. So let me find one real quick that's very evident. Okay, this one right there, if you look on the left side of it right there, that's the root part. And this right here, that is the part that will actually create the stem, the leaves. And so if you look at all these corms, they're all different directions. There we go. They're all different directions. And for what we're doing right now, that doesn't really matter. Obviously, once we get the cloves in the ground, and once these are outside in the ground, that will matter. But for right now, it doesn't matter. So this is our theory. It is September 22nd right now. And theoretically, it will take 2 to 4 months for these to get to that point. But we're hoping by cutting off part of the outer husk, by pre-chilling them, by putting them in the solution that's over there, that will help speed the process up. So now it's just a waiting game, and now we can see how long it's going to take for them to start sprouting.